Hi everybody, welcome to today's Revitalize Reconnect Meet, where I get the opportunity to meet a business owner, a business entrepreneur from across the business community of the UK. And today I've got the great privilege to be with a lady I have met over the last few weeks and learned a lot about her background in business and how she supported many business connections across the UK. Now, this lady has a background of head of development and public affairs with the Royal Scottish Academy of Music and Drama, PR and marketing, project management in various companies, an early career on daytime TV at the BBC and as an MP's researcher. Worked with pretty much every single sector you can name on this planet. But she has been in business for over 20 years in various different formats. Can you please welcome this morning with me today, from Yara Journeys, the one and only Annabelle Beckwith. Annabelle, how are you doing today?
I'm very well indeed, thank you, Lee. Thank you for that. I don't think I've ever had such a. I was thinking, is he talking about me? such a lovely introduction. Thank you.
It's an absolute pleasure. You sent it through to me, so it was great information. We did our research, and I'm pleased you're happy with the delivery. So very good indeed. So with everybody listening today and also watching on our YouTube channel, could you share with everybody a little bit about your business, Yara Journeys Limited?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, I provide consultancy, coaching and training services to business leaders. And in essence, it's to help them create the business that they want and fix the stuff that they don't. That's it in a nutshell. So I work with businesses of all different sizes. I've worked with entrepreneurs who are scaling up, and at the other end of the size spectrum, as it were, I work with global corporates to design and co-facilitate and deliver leadership programs. So it really is across the board. But whoever I'm working with, and this is one of the key things about the Yara Journeys approach, is that people are people. There are core principles at play, whether it's an entrepreneur who's just starting to build their team or whether it's a global multinational going through massive change. The core principles are the same, and those are the principles that we work to. So the clients that we work to, whoever they are, know that with me and my associate team, they are getting proven best practice, whoever they are and whatever size of business they're in.
Superb. It's a great amount that you're actually helping so many people, and especially in leadership, most importantly, especially in this day and age. But I've noticed in here as well, what you sent through, and we were chatting about it prior, was the successes and achievements that you've had over the many years you've been in business. Would you mind shedding a light on what's been the biggest achievement to you to date and why?
Do you know what? To be brutally honest, I think it's still been here after 20 years to many respects. And whilst that sounds flippant, I don't mean it to be entirely flippant, because relatively early on, or several years ago, 2008 was the economic slump where suddenly everything changed. And companies just stopped taking on service providers of my sort. And there's been other glitches along the way where, the bottom fell out of the oil and gas market. So there's a huge sector that isn't commissioning as much anymore. And this type of thing. And the key thing from my point of view has been having the mindset to be able to move and pivot quite quickly, to say, okay, now if this area is closing down, doors are closing over here, they're going to be opening somewhere else. So where is that, and how can I best serve people in that environment? So I think for me that's been one of the biggest achievements is to still be here. And the second thing is I've been really, really fortunate to be able to work internationally with some huge companies, but it's taken me to the States, all over Europe, to the Far East, to the Middle East. And that's been a joy and a privilege. It really has, to work with so many different people around the world, and actually to see that those core principles I mentioned a minute or so ago are core principles everywhere. You see something happening in the UK and think, oh, that's interesting. And then you see it happening in the States and go, oh, look at that, it's here too. And then you see it in the Middle East, in the Far East, in North Africa, and you think, oh, I see. This is who we are as human beings when we come together as a group of people within a business, within a community, within an ecosystem, if you will, to try and achieve something together. This is who we are as a species. So part of all of those things have led to to that realization, really, that if we work with the human condition rather than try and pretend it doesn't exist or fight against it, then that is the most productive way forward.
I think it's right what you say. It's going with the flow, but it's adapting to overcome with the challenges that you're faced with.
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
funny when you hear so many industries across the sectors, and especially across the globe, how many people think a business works differently in the States or Canada to the UK, but it's the same dynamics. They've just
Yeah.
adapted it to work in that environment. Would you agree?
Yes, exactly that. And I mean, obviously there's going to be cultural differences, and you know, the traditions of how a business works in India and what happens day to day is going to be very different to what happens in the States, for example. But fundamentally, we are human beings. The patterns of behavior that we go through when we're experiencing change, when we're caught in a bit of a panic situation, rabbits in the headlights, like, you know, the current scenario in which we find ourselves, we're all rabbits in the headlights to start with, at least, because that's what people do in the face of sudden change and challenge. And then it kind of depends on our inner resources, our resilience and our mindset as to how we respond to that particular situation. But you're right, Lee, the core principles are pretty universal.
Definitely, without a doubt. And with everything that's going on at the moment, you've just tapped on a few things. The rabbit in the headlights. I like that nice little analogy. Is that with everything that's gone over the last sort of 8 to 9 weeks, we talk a lot about diversifying their business journey. How have you diversified your business, and how have you adapted to change to overcome with the challenges that you've been positioned with?
Hmm. I was on the road anyway towards moving more of my business online, not to a completely online business model, but to leverage productizing knowledge, for example, and various online initiatives and so on. So it's kind of speeded that up. Where there has had to be, where we've all had to be a little bit more fleet of foot, is where clients were used to a face-to-face interaction. And at first it was like, oh my goodness, you could see everything dropping out of the diary because it was cancel, postpone, postpone. And then everybody started to think, well, hang on a minute, how can we do this online? Can we use Adobe Connect? Can we use Zoom? How do we structure this? So there was a bit of a sort of hiatus where people were thinking, okay, well, we can't just, you know, cancel Christmas, stop everything. We've got to continue in some shape or form. So that's been the one of the key things, is taking what was working well offline and moving it to an online business model. And it's whilst I say it like that, it's not as straightforward as just taking your offline consultancy, your face-to-face work, your face-to-face workshop, and shoving it into a Zoom environment, because the whole Zoom thing works very different, as you'll know yourself, obviously, with regard to how people interact with it. So it's been a question of working with friends and colleagues who are experts in this area to say, okay, well, how best do we transfer the offline stuff that was working well into the online environment, and ensure that it continues to work well and have the same end results and the same output.
I think it's great you're saying that, because I think a lot of people look at like interaction online different than what they're doing face to face. But I think the penny has dropped with many, that you're getting a lot more productivity, you're getting a lot more engagement
Yeah.
and timings, especially working online now. It's given people a bit more, I feel, a lot more release of opportunities that's there.
Yes, and I think you're right, and it's definitely opened people's minds. People who might have been thinking, right, well, my customer base is in Scotland or it's the UK, will think, well, why not the States? Why not rest of Europe? Why not the Far East? Why not? Why not? And the time thing's been critical as well. I think there's a lot of things we won't go back to. One of which is potentially, you know, face-to-face networking events where, you know, if there's one in Edinburgh, it's going to take me the best part of a day by the time I've faffed about getting there, attending the meeting, getting back, and so on. So I think that a lot more of those types of things will be online, and where there are face-to-face events, those are going to be much higher quality events, because we're not going to be able to get away with the same old
Mm-hmm.
in a face-to-face environment, because people will say, well, hang on a minute, why am I putting myself through that when I could save time, resources, and get the same outputs online? So there's going to have to be something special about face-to-face interactions to make them higher value than perhaps they have been in the past. Maybe we've become a little bit complacent about some of these things. I don't know.
Very true, and I think it's working smarter. You know, we are working a lot more smarter now, more than anything else. Now, taking all that in consideration as well, and looking at what you've been delivering and how you've been helping many people, we mentioned early on, is what we talked about, your golden tip of advice for people just starting up in their business, or they are starting to run their business. What would you share with them as a tip of golden advice from Annabelle Beckwith today?
The inner work comes first. The inner work comes first, and you own your business. Your business does not own you. And I think that's absolutely fundamental. And it doesn't matter whether you're a business owner who's looking to scale up. It doesn't matter whether you're in an organization and you're not the owner, the leader, but you're wanting a promotion, whether you're somebody who's just starting out in business and you've got an idea that you want to see if you can take to fruition. The mindset piece is absolutely critical, absolutely critical. And I think a lot of the time we see, rightly so. Well, we see an emphasis on, right, what are your goals? What's your strategy? What are the practical things that you need to implement to get the show on the road? All of which are critical, but what is going on in your head is also critical. So that is the advice that I would give to anybody. Is like, pause for a moment and think, what do you actually want? And that is, what do you want? Not what does everybody else expect you to want? And what do you want, rather than what do you think you ought to have? That inner work and being brutally honest with yourself and what your own personal hopes and aspirations are, to my mind, are absolutely critical. Because you do see, do you not, business owners and so on who might be have an opportunity before them, they're ready to press on, but something's holding them back from pressing the go button, from moving forward in this way. And that's a mindset thing. The practicalities might be in place, but it's what is going on in your head that is making you risk averse or prepared to actually go for it, making a high quality decision or decision based in fear. What is it? So that would be the golden tip. The inner work comes first. If you grow yourself, you will grow your business.
I love that, and I'm 100% behind that as well. I think there's many that won't take time out for themselves. They're on the rail tracks and they're pushing forward and they're really going at some pace. But sometimes when you take that time out of that 30 minutes, that decompression time, and just think about it before reacting, we've all been there. We've all pressed the trigger and ran straight into it headlong. It's just take a bit of time out, work on the inner workings for you, and then it gives you a fresher type of view of what you're aiming for, of what you want to have. And I do like that. Thanks very much, Annabelle. So with everything that's gone on and everything that's been happening, what is the next stage for Annabelle Beckwith and Yara Journeys? What's your next step and your next door of opportunity you're looking to open up?
So, right, the very next thing is my book, which is, do you know what, I'm talking about this, if you've not heard about it, so what kind of rock have you been hiding under? My book is launching on the 7th of July, and it's called Get Your P's in a Row, 5 Key Factors to Propel Your Business Forward. And in essence, it's a distillation of 20 years worth of experience and observation about some of these factors that I said are core principles within life and business. So just in a nutshell, they are personal, so that's the inner work comes first. Purpose, so that's your purpose for your business and your vision leading to your strategy. And that's because people don't just want to understand the what and the how anymore. They want to be connected to the why. So what is it? The third P is people. How are you structuring your business and how are you leading and managing your team to accomplish your strategy? The fourth is process. How are your processes supporting your people to deliver on your strategy that delivers your life aspirations? And the fifth P is paradigms. What culture are you consciously creating within your business that supports all of the above? Because if, as a business leader, you're not consciously designing and creating and implementing your culture, somebody else in your business is. And it's probably the person with the strongest character or the loudest voice, which is not always a good thing. So that, in essence, is what the 5 Ps are about. And that book is, it kind of captures the way in which I work anyway. So it's the basis of the coaching programs that I work with leaders, the basis of an approach to consultancy and so on. So that's coming out on the 7th of July. And I mentioned a little bit earlier on about this whole notion about productizing knowledge and taking that online. So there's a whole raft of things in the pipeline that will follow on from the book.
Absolutely superb. And when the book's launched on the 7th of July,
yes,
how can everybody who's listening and watching today, how can they get access to that book? Where do they need to go to find out more information on that?
So if you go to annabellebeckwith.com, that is where everything will be going on. There's a website up there at the moment, just with a quick sign-up page for anybody who wants to receive updates on what's happening. But the 7th of July, annabellebeckwith.com. That's when it's launching. And for the launch day and the launch week, I've put together a series of bonuses, like mini training courses on key leadership skills and some other odds and ends for those who are quick off the starting blocks to purchase.
Absolutely brilliant. Well, I look forward to the book launch, and again, I recommend everybody to take a look at that. But if everyone who's listening and watching today, how else can they make contact with you, start the conversation, and have that virtual coffee catch up with Annabelle? How can they get in touch with yourself, Annabelle?
So the easiest way would just be to email. It's Annabelle, ANNABELLE. Spelling's important, at yara-journeys.com. So YARA-journeys.com. Or if you're on LinkedIn, just look me up, Annabelle Beckwith. There I am. I'd be delighted to connect, and then drop me a message, and we can arrange to talk. We can connect that way. So those are the most straightforward ways of getting in touch.
Absolutely brilliant, Annabelle. And I just want to say a massive thank you for your time today and spending it and giving everyone a bit of an overview of your journey, a bit of an insight and your thoughts and the inner mindset that we've been talking about today, and sharing that golden nugget of information, that golden tip of advice to people who are starting up their business and running their business. And I wish you all the very best with the book launch. I'm looking forward to getting my copy on the 7th of July and finding out more about these 5 P's in a row, most importantly. So thank you very much for your time today, Annabelle.
And thank you, Lee. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Absolutely superb. And I'd recommend everybody to connect with Annabelle to find out more about the book that comes out, as you mentioned again, on a 3rd time, on the 7th of July, the new book, 5 P's in a Row, with Annabelle Beckwith. If you do want to find out more about ReConnect Meets, keep an eye out on subscribe to our channel, on podcast and on the YouTube. I look forward to welcoming the next business entrepreneur to the next edition of Revitalize ReConnect Meets over the next coming weeks. We hope you all stay safe, keep well, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Take care. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.